But the worst thing about being a fat kid, I'll be honest, the worst thing about being a fat kid was elementary school. And it wasn't the kids goofing on me, because as you can tell, I'm a big guy and I can handle myself verbally. But it was, for some reason in elementary school, they had to monitor our weight every friggin' year. And they never did it the way I would have approved. Like marching us up to the nurse's office one at a time. Or maybe having us write it down on a piece of paper and slide it across the table like we're making an offer on a house. 85 pounds, nice try, fatso, right again. No, they would do this horrible thing by getting the nurse and her assistant, and they would get that scale, and they would bring that fucking scale into class. And it's not the little scale that you step on and it goes bring, bring, bring. No, it's that big scale with the big thing waving back and forth. And it was horrible. Now, I was walking around, everybody's in pretty good shape. You probably saw the scale, you didn't care. Like every kid's like, oh, today we're getting weighed. Us fat kids were like, no! It was like Jaws coming out of us, man. It was a serpent, you know? So what happened was, the nurse is there, she has her assistant, and her assistant has this clipboard, and she starts writing all the kids' names right next to the name and writing the weight down. And the problem is, it wasn't in alphabetical order. It was in this psychotic order. And I never knew when I was getting picked. I wanted to be last, but they never did that. So she starts calling up each kid. The kids are stepping up. She's like, Anthony Esposito, and Anthony steps on, and she's like, she leans over, she's like, Anthony, 67 pounds. Okay, yes. Who's next? Tony Rocco. And Tony steps on, she's like, Tony is 72 pounds. She goes on, and all of a sudden, she decides to call my name. And I swear to God, every kid was like this. She's like, Joe Conte. Every kid went like this. Shut the fuck up. Fat kids weighing in and I want to hear this shit. So now, I'm not like petrified, I'm beyond petrified. Now I'm scared, all the kids are staring at me. So I'm stepping up to the scale, I'm nervous, and the nurse is there, and I'm just about to put my foot on the scale. And what does that bitch do? She takes that bottom block and moves it over one. I'm horrified, I'm like, oh my God, why are you doing that? She's like, oh, I'm sorry, and she moves it up one more time. Don't assume, woman, don't assume. So now, I realize that this woman is not a friend, so now I'm scared, so I step on the scale, and she starts to tip. She's like, I'm like, screw you, bitch. I tip it back that way. She's like, sorry. She finally gets me down, she holds my arm, she gets a tally, she doesn't even have the nerve to say it out loud. She's like, 197 pounds. This kid's freaking huge. Yeah, it sucked having your mother for a nurse, man. Ba-da-ching, ba-zang. That's right. True story, add your mother to it, always funny, right? But you know what though? Let me tell you something, man. There was one cool thing about elementary school, because it wasn't all bad. There was one cool thing that would happen during elementary school that used to, like, we were all good kids. Let's face it, you know, if you're here in this type of environment, supporting this kind of thing, you were a good kid. We were brought up right, and you're doing the right thing. And I remember there was one thing that used to happen, very rare in school. It was an activity that when we found out, it brought out the best in us kids. It was the most awesome thing, but it didn't happen too often. Does anybody want to take a guess on what it might be? The number one thing.
Tug of war.
Dodgeball. Field day, top 3. Beautiful. Field day, top 3. Anybody have another guess?
Tug of war.
Valentine's Day? Not for me, honey, all right? I was like fucking Charlie Brown on Valentine's Day. Where's the little red-haired girl? Lunch and gym, my 2 favorite fucking classes, man. Here we go. You ready? Here it is. Elementary school. Greatest thing that ever happened. Field trip. Yes, right? Forget about just having a good time. When we found out we were going on a field trip, we went out of our friggin' mind. She's like, kids, get yourself a note, because next Friday we're going on a field trip. We were like, like, yeah, we're doing a thing called Scared Straight at New York State Penitentiary. What the hell is a penitentiary? We didn't care, right? We just wanted to get out of that school. So what happens is they give us something to sign to bring to our parents, and we forge our parents' note, and we go back, and that Friday, we get on the bus. And we are in the back of the bus hanging out, having a good time, and there's a teacher or two up front, knitting, whatever the hell they were doing, because they weren't paying attention to what we were doing. And we were having a good time, we're on the highway, and something would happen that would put us in a trance. A trucker would go by. Thank you, right? Didn't matter what we were doing. Didn't matter what we were doing. All of a sudden, we see that trucker right next to us, and we're like, dude, this is gonna be so much... We're like, blow the horn, trucker! We got our face pinned up against the window. Do it! Come on, baby, do it! And when he blew that horn, we're like, yeah! Yeah, trucker, you're the greatest trucker ever! We love you, Consolidated Freight! The one problem, once in a while, a trucker would go by, we'd give him the horn, and he would not blow the horn. And we would react a little bit differently. We're like, fuck you, trucker! I hope you die! But we were good kids though, right?